Step back, old man, or you're next. Those words echoed across the suburban street just before they fired the taser into my wife's trembling body. As tactical officers trained their weapons on me, I didn't raise my voice or make a sudden move. Instead, I looked their commander dead in the eye and spoke 5 words that would freeze 12 armed men in their tracks. Call General Hawthorne right now. The neighbors of Maple Ridge Drive knew Thomas Beckett as the quiet mechanic who could resurrect any engine from the brink of death. His garage doors stood open most weekends, the melodic clash of tools dancing with Led Zeppelin across manicured lawns. At 72, his hands carried a slight tremor, but muscle memory guided them through mechanical puzzles that had baffled others for decades. Few knew about the steel beneath his gentle exterior. 32 years of military service, operations in countries most couldn't pronounce, missions that existed only in files few were cleared to read. The Distinguished Service Cross and 2 bronze stars lay wrapped in an old newspaper inside a locked drawer. Thomas preferred being known for his carburetor rebuilds rather than his work in special operations that officially never happened. Only Margaret understood the full weight of what he carried. She'd held him through nightmares that followed him home from classified missions, nursed wounds both visible and buried deep. Their 47 years of marriage had survived extended deployments, enforced silences, and the painstaking transformation from warrior to civilian. Their craftsman-style home became a sanctuary of normalcy. Thomas volunteered at the Veterans Center on Wednesdays, built adaptive equipment for disabled service members on weekends, and spent Friday mornings mentoring troubled youth through the school's automotive program. His quiet service continued long after his uniform was packed away. That Thursday afternoon began like any other. Thomas lay beneath Mrs. Watson's aging Cadillac, performing his weekly charity oil change. Margaret had driven to Morrison's grocery. Thursday was double coupon day, and she never missed it. The early October breeze carried the scent of burning leaves and approaching rain. The first sign of trouble came as tires shrieked against pavement, too sharp, too deliberate for their sleepy street. Thomas slid from under the car just as the first armored vehicle blocked his driveway. 4 more followed, spilling tactical officers in full combat gear onto his front lawn. Police, everyone on the ground. Now. Black-clad figures poured from vehicles, weapons raised, faces obscured by ballistic helmets and shields. Thomas rose slowly, deliberately, keeping his oil-stained hands visible. "There's been some mistake," he began calmly, but the muzzle of an assault rifle gestured him to silence. "Down. Now." Thomas complied without argument. Cold concrete pressed against his cheek as boots surrounded him. Through the cacophony of radio chatter and barked commands, he heard an officer say, "Sweep the premises." Metal cuffs clicked around his wrists. That's when Margaret's silver sedan turned into the driveway. She emerged with grocery bags balanced in both arms, her face registering confusion, then alarm. "Thomas, what's happening?" 3 officers immediately pivoted, weapons trained on her 70-year-old frame. "Drop the bags. Hands where we can see them." Margaret froze, paper bags clutched against her chest, fear replacing confusion. "Please, she's not complying." A younger officer's voice cracked with adrenaline. "Ma'am, final warning." Margaret tried to lower the bags, but arthritic fingers struggled with their weight. Non-compliant subject. The young officer stepped forward, drawing his taser. Thomas's voice cut through the chaos with battlefield clarity. "She's my wife. She's carrying groceries." A boot pressed harder against his spine. "Step back, old man, or you're next." The taser discharged with a sickening crackle. Margaret's body convulsed as electricity surged through her. Grocery bags burst across the driveway, eggs shattering, fruit scattering beneath tactical boots, milk spreading across asphalt like spilled memories. She crumpled to the ground. Thomas didn't panic. Decades of training overrode civilian instincts. With controlled precision that belied his prone position, He focused on the officer wearing commando insignia. "Let me up," he said, voice carrying quiet authority that made the commander hesitate before nodding. As Thomas rose, still handcuffed, he locked eyes with the commander and spoke 5 words that altered the entire operation's trajectory. "Call General Hawthorne right now." The SWAT commander's expression shifted from certainty to uncertainty. Around them, tactical officers maintained positions, weapons ready, radios crackling with coordinated chatter. One younger officer scoffed. "That's supposed to impress us, old-timer? We're executing a federal warrant for Ricardo Vega. Major drug distribution network. Seg your military buddies for court." Thomas's expression remained impassive, his eyes never leaving the commander's. "This is 7822 Maple Ridge Drive. You want 7822 Maple Ridge Avenue. Different municipality entirely." His voice remained steady despite Margaret lying motionless on the pavement. "Now remove these restraints and make that call. Colonel," he added, reading the commander's rank insignia, "my wife has a cardiac condition requiring immediate attention." The commander hesitated, doubt creeping across his features. "Verify the address," he ordered. While they confirmed their error, Thomas spoke again. "Left inside pocket of my windbreaker. Look, but don't remove it." The commander approached cautiously, reaching into Thomas's pocket. He withdrew a worn badge featuring a black eagle surrounded by Latin script, unmistakable to anyone with intelligence community experience. "Shadow protocol clearance," Thomas said quietly. Silence descended like a shroud. Even radio chatter seemed to pause. An older tactical team member leaned toward the commander, whispering urgently, "Sir, that's not just military. That's Tier 1 operations. That's Delta clearance," the commander finished, face draining of color. "Get the medic. Cut his restraints, now." As Thomas knelt beside Margaret, checking her pulse with practiced fingers, the operation dissolved into controlled chaos. Officers frantically worked phones, verifying Thomas's identity through classified databases. Others radioed dispatch, confirming the catastrophic address error. "You raided the wrong house," Thomas stated flatly while helping Margaret sit up as the medic arrived. "Failed to verify. Escalated unnecessarily. Used excessive force on a senior citizen carrying groceries." Across the street, a neighbor filmed everything. Later, he'd tell reporters, "He just said 5 words, and the whole SWAT team lowered their weapons like someone hit a switch." The commander approached, helmet removed, revealing a face etched with dawning horror. "Sir, we had intelligence that." "You had nothing," Thomas interrupted, his calm voice carrying an edge that made the younger man step back. "What you had was adrenaline and authority without accountability." Margaret's eyes fluttered open, pain and confusion evident. "Tom?" "I'm here, Maggie." Then to the commander, "I'm taking my wife inside. Your team remains outside. Make that call to General Hawthorne immediately." The young officer who'd fired the taser stood frozen, realizing his career might have just ended. As Thomas helped Margaret stand, another team member began collecting scattered groceries, a futile gesture of contrition. Walking toward their front door, Thomas heard whispers among the tactical team. Database searches had confirmed his identity. His name had appeared on lists they weren't supposed to know existed, lists that made even seasoned operators nervous. They'd come expecting a drug kingpin. Instead, they'd assaulted the wife of a legend. If respect came before assumptions, a neighbor commented later, maybe no one would have gotten hurt. 45 minutes passed inside the Beckett home. Margaret rested on the couch, ice pack against taser burns, while Thomas maintained vigil. One hand holding hers, eyes monitoring the driveway through parted curtains. The SWAT team remained outside, earlier aggression replaced by visible discomfort. 2 officers dispatched to the correct address reported that their actual target had relocated months ago. When the unmarked black SUV arrived, it did so without fanfare, just a deliberate stop behind the police vehicles. The man who emerged wore no uniform, just a tailored grey suit that whispered authority. General Marcus Hawthorne stood momentarily, assessing the scene with decades of operational experience. 65 years old with military-precise silver hair, he moved purposefully toward the house, ignoring the SWAT commander's attempt to intercept. Thomas met him at the door. The two men shared a weighted silence, decades of classified history communicating volumes. Then, with formal precision, General Hawthorne rendered a crisp salute. Thomas returned it, his first in 18 years. "They told me you were dead," Hawthorne said finally. "Only on paper," Thomas replied. Hawthorne's gaze shifted to Margaret on the sofa. His jaw tightened visibly before he turned to address the assembled tactical team. His voice carried across the yard without volume, authority radiating like heat. "This man," he began, gesturing toward Thomas, "wrote the protocols you violated today." The officers stood motionless. The older team member who'd recognized Thomas's badge suddenly paled further. "Beckett," he whispered. "Colonel T.J. Beckett. You wrote the Urban Engagement Manual. We studied it in Advanced Tactics." Thomas nodded once, acknowledgement without ego. Hawthorne addressed the SWAT commander directly. "You didn't detain a suspect today. You assaulted a national asset, a man whose operational record likely exceeds your entire unit's combined experience." The commander attempted to speak, but Hawthorne continued. "The officer who deployed the taser without proper threat assessment. Identify yourself." The young officer stepped forward, trembling visibly. "Your equipment, now." Without protest, he removed his tactical vest, weapon, and badge, placing them on the nearest vehicle's hood. "You're relieved. Report for administrative review and reassignment." No one spoke as the officer entered a patrol car, head bowed, career imploding in real time. Hawthorne turned to Thomas, withdrawing a sealed envelope from his jacket. "This contains 2 items, a formal apology and reinstatement of your clearances. We need you back, Tom. The threats haven't diminished." Thomas regarded the envelope without reaching for it. "The threats never changed, Marcus. Only the faces and weapons." He glanced at Margaret watching from the doorway. "My service belongs to her now, and to people who need engines fixed, not situations resolved." Hawthorne nodded, understanding evident. He placed the envelope on the porch railing. "The offer remains." Then he departed. Thomas never opened that envelope. Some questions answer themselves. A week later, Police Commissioner Sarah Whitfield announced what became known as the 5 Words Protocol. Mandatory training emphasizing de-escalation, proper identification procedures, and civilian dignity during all interactions. She never mentioned Thomas or Margaret by name. The viral video spoke loudly enough despite suppression attempts. Margaret recovered gradually. The taser hadn't aggravated her heart condition, but bruises marked where barbs had struck. She never mentioned the pain, physical or psychological, but carried herself differently now. At the grocery store, she met officers' eyes directly, refusing to be diminished by what happened. Thomas maintained his routines. Mrs. Watson's Cadillac received its oil changes. The Veterans Center saw him Wednesdays. High school students learned that redemption often hid beneath engine grease and patient instruction. The neighborhood noticed changes too. Patrol cars slowed near the Beckett driveway. Officers nodded first when passing Thomas during morning walks. An unmarked SUV appeared occasionally, its driver leaving packages, books, premium bourbon, once a restored photograph showing a younger Thomas among men with carefully obscured faces. 3 months later, a rookie officer's cruiser broke down near the Beckett home. Thomas emerged with tools before the call reached dispatch. As they worked together, the young officer gathered courage. "Sir," he began hesitantly, "everyone at the academy discusses you now. About what happened. They say you could have destroyed careers with one call." He paused, hand stilling on a wrench. Why didn't you? Thomas tightened a bolt before answering. Because revenge doesn't fix engines, son, and it doesn't fix people. The cruiser started immediately. Thomas wiped his hands and stepped back. Thank you, sir, the officer said, respect evident. Thomas, he corrected. Just Thomas. A reporter ambushed him outside the Veterans Center days later, microphone thrust aggressively forward. Mr. Beckett, why didn't you retaliate when they attacked your wife? You had the training, the right. Why just 5 words instead of action? Thomas looked directly into the camera, expression neither angry nor proud. Because 5 words spoke louder than violence. Sometimes the strongest position isn't standing over someone else, it's standing your ground. He walked away then, back to his truck, back to the life he'd chosen after decades of service that would never appear in official records. Just a man who fixed things, who understood that true power never needed to raise its voice to be heard, who had learned that authority often spoke clearest through mercy rather than might. A man who had once been a weapon, who now chose to be a builder instead. Some heroes don't need medals or monuments, just 5 words and the truth behind them.